Chassidus Chabad is a very involved and complex and complete body of Torah. It's not just a few ideas. It's a whole shita that enlightens really ultimately, the whole Torah with an Oir Chodosh, an Oir Atzmi, all of the expressions that we know from the Rabbeim about what Chassidus is. And it really sheds a whole new light on the whole Torah. What the Rebbe calls in the Siche of Inyana Shal Torah Chassidus, Yechida, the Yechida of Torah. And like any other part of Torah, it's also a limud. And in as much as it's a limud, and as much as it's an idea that you can study and understand intellectually and academically, it has sugyas, it has topics that can be studied one at a time. Moreover, in Chassidus, you frequently have one topic that you study one part of it at a time. Because oftentimes there's so many subtle differences and almost contradictions between one aspect of one thing and another aspect of that same thing, that Chassidus in one Maamar will talk about one part, and another Maamar will talk about the other part, and in a third Maamar they'll try to resolve these different parts. And it's a Torah, arucha v'arucha, it's long and it's incredibly well organized and presented, and there's a Torah, murcheves and murveches. It's huge, and it's incredible. And of course, it's deep. One of the most important parts, one of the most important areas of discussion which you have in Chassidus Chabad is the sugya of Achdas Hashem. The discussion on the unity of God. And of course, when you learn the sugya of Achdas Hashem, the first thing that you discover is that Achdas Hashem does not mean that God is one. Big mistake. The idea that there is one God and not two gods is included in the mitzvah of Yediyas Hashem, the first mitzvah according to the Rambam, or Ha'amonas Holokus. And I like to translate the word Ha'amona not as faith, but from the word Iman. Ha'amona means focusing and becoming expert at knowing and understanding Elokus. That includes the idea that there's only one God and that He has no body and no body-like parts and so on. Achdus is a second mitzvah. Ha'amonas Holokus we learn from Aneicha Hashem Alekecha Asher Tzisicha Meretz Mitzrayim Beis Avodim, and Achdus Hashem, the Rambam learns from the pasuk Shema Yisrael Havaya Elokeinu Havaya Echad. What is Achdus Hashem? Achdus Hashem is that the world is one with Hashem. Achdus doesn't mean God is one. Achdus means there's nothing other than one. So Achdus Hashem includes me and you, the world and the Eibush that are in a state of union, of unity, of unison, of unity, and there's a chiyuv on a yid to understand and to incorporate into his mind, into his heart, into his life, this absolute oneness between himself and the Eibush, that there's no division, there's no separation in the Eibish's Welt. Achdus Hashem. And when you study Chassidus about Achdus Hashem, you find there's so many discussions about Achdus Hashem, Chassidus, there's so many. You find that there are different shittas within Achdus Hashem itself. There's so many different parts to the discussion of Achdus Hashem that you have in Chassidus. For example, the Chassidic opinion about Hashgacha Pratis. The Chassidic opinion about what we call his Havas B'chol Rega, the constancy of creation. And then you have a series of psukim that explore Achdus Hashem, each one in its own way. For example, obviously, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is one. V'yadai ta'yim v'ashivei tzalvavecha ki avayu Elokim b'shemayim ima'al v'laris b'tachas ein eid. Ata harei saladas ki avayu Elokim ein eid, and we add the word milvade. However, milvade is explained, whether milvade makes lower than ein eid or higher than ein eid, depends on who you ask and so on. And there are other psukim that also speak to the oneness between the Yid and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So maraminechem arumi bareila. Which of course is based on the fact that Hashem is involved in the world and He's Chayim and Tev, and not engaging with HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be ultimately Mavis and Ra. So there are different levels, there's many different psukim, many different meditations, many different psukim. each one speaks to the relationship and the unity between the Eibush and the world in a slightly different way. One of the most powerful, one of the most compelling, and one of the most all-consuming is the pasuk Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi, which means that Hashem says, Ani Havaya, I am Havaya, and Leisha Nisi, I have not changed. Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi is in Tanya, in the beginning of Perek Chof, in the first chelik, Tanya, L'kuti Amorim Sefer Shavin in Perek Chof. And in the second chelik, I don't remember that the Alter Rebbe should mention the idea of Leisha Nisi, but he certainly speaks very high levels in Achdus which arguably are the equivalent of Ani Hashem Leisha Nisi. Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi is one of the most complete discussions on Achdus Hashem. And I'll tell you why. When you say Hashem Echad, suggested within the words Hashem Echad, or insinuated, inferred, or implied within the words Hashem Echad is the possibility for duality, and even though there's a possibility for two, you should know there's one. Right? That's a taich. You would think there's two, so the Torah says Hashem Echad. And the same is true in the pasuk Havayu Elikim, Ein Eid, Havayu Elikim, Ein Eid Movade. In all of these psukim, there's a proposal, there is a tendency, there is a place to think that there's two things. Hashem and Elikim are two separated things. And the Torah teaches you that Ein Eid. Or the Torah teaches that Ein Eid Movade. So in all of these psukim that speak of Achdus, the need to speak of Achdus is because there's room to consider the opposite. In the pasuk Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi, there's not two things. Ani Hashem Leisha Nisi means I, God, haven't changed. And of course, the way it's explained in Tanya and in the Maamorim, before Hashem created the world, before Hashem created anything, before Hashem thought about anything, all there was God. So the pasuk says, I haven't changed. Just like prior to the creation, there was only me and there was nothing else, it continues to be true that Leisha Nisi is nothing but me at all. So Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi, I guess in a certain aspect, is deeper than even Hashem Echad and Ein Eid and Ein Movade, because on those other psukim, the psukim themselves lend or lead or allow for a question about Achdus, and then you have to correct it. In Leisha Nisi, there's nothing about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, this is not so simple, because we say Havaya. If you would say Ani Leisha Nisi, this would be absolutely true. But you say Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi. So the question becomes, what does Havaya mean? Because if you say Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi, before you can define the significance of I haven't changed, you have to define who the I is, who the Havaya is. And when you learn the Maamar Chassidus about Havaya, you find that there's different Havayas. There's Havaya Lashon Mahave, there's a Havaya Lashon Hoya Hoive V'yihi Ke'echad, which is of course Ein Seif. Then there's Havaya, which is Shem Ha'etzem, it goes in Eibush to himself. There's the idea of Havaya, that Hashem is Faran, that Hashem exists and nothing more. And you have to explain Leisha Nisi according to each Havaya. So the fact that in this pasuk the word Havaya exists, and Havaya is a Shem HaTorah, it's a proper name, it's a precise name, it's a distinct name, which belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the exclusion of everything else. So you have to define Havaya, and based on that you can define Leisha Nisi. But nevertheless, notwithstanding that, it's still true that in the pasuk Ani Hashem Leisha Nisi, the Achdus is simpler, because you're not even entertaining the idea that there's another, there's just one, and this just one hasn't changed one iota from before creation to after creation. Leisha Nisi, Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi. There's been no change in the creation at all. Today's shiur is about Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi. We're holding Perek Zayin of Basi Legani Tafshin Yates, which in the Sefer Maamar Maluk at Chelik Aleph is page Ayin, and we have Perek Zayin, Perek Ches, and Perek Tes, 3 more prakim to learn. And the discussion of these prakim is Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi. But the discussion of these prakim is not stam, it's not simply Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi. The discussion in these prakim is the gilui of Ani Havaya Leisha Nisi. It's one thing to say that Ani Havaya, that the Eibush is called Havaya, Leisha Nisi, before he made anything he was alone, and once he made everything he's still alone. And it's quite another to say that you can see it in the world, that even though he made a world, And the world arguably seems separate from him. And as you see in the Perek, he invests from himself in the world in the form of life and energy and light and so on. So he's involved with the world. Nevertheless, you're saying, Ani Havaya Leishanisi. But the difficulty is, the thing that needs to be underscored is that you want to see it. It's true, Ani Havaya Leishanisi. The absolute truth is that nothing has changed. Before Hashem made the world, it was only Hashem. Now that Hashem made the world, it was only Hashem. But that's not our experience. And the message or the meaning of Ani Havaya Leishanisi is not only that it's true absolutely, that there's no change in Havaya as far as Havaya is concerned, but that through Avoid, Ani Havaya Leishanisi means there's no change in Havaya as far as we're concerned, as far as the world is concerned. And of course, as this Maamar is going to say, that ultimately, the true idea of Ani Havaya Leishanisi at its ultimate level, which goes on the Dvarim Gashmim and physical things, is not going to be until Mashiach comes. Although some lesser degrees of Ani Havaya Leishanisi are available to us in a state of Gila even now. What have we learned? What have we learned? This is our fourth class on the Maamar, Basi, Legani, Tafshin Yates. And what have we learned? We have learned that the way the Rebbe learns Perek test of this Maamar, even though when you look in the Friedrich Rebbe's Maamar, the whole middle of the Perek, it's a short Perek relatively speaking, the whole middle of the Perek is talking about Ga'ar Chayas Kana, it's talking about changing the kuf into the hay and so on, the feeding klipa. But in this Maamar, it's only Perek Vav, which is a tiny Perek, that addresses this idea. Besides for this little Perek Vav, where the Rebbe talks about Ga'ar Chayas Kana, the entire Maamar is not talking about Milchama anymore. In other words, and again I talked to you about this in the earlier shiur, that Basi Ligani speaks about building a Shama Beis HaMikdash. And Basi Ligani further says, to build a Shama Beis HaMikdash, you can't separate yourself from the world, you have to have a skafia ves hapcha. You have to fight with the world. And the Basi Ligani gave examples for what that fight is, karbones and shtus and sheket keresh. So we had many prakim, 7 to be exact, that explored the skafia ves hapcha, the struggle that needs to be in a yid's life vis-a-vis the world in order to make a dir leis barach b'tachtein. When you get to Perek test for the most part is not about the struggle, no. Perek test for the most part is the reward for the struggle. A yid does a skafia ves hapcha. He engages in the struggle, the fight with the Yetzer Hara, by being mahapech, the nefesh habahamis, to Kedusha through karbonis. He's mahapech to the liyum hazeh, to the Kedusha. He transforms sheket of Elam into keresh and kesher. Or it says in this Maamar, he cuts off the left leg of the kuf and changes the kuf into a hay so it becomes hine. So after you learn about this entire struggle, you get to Perek test. And Perek test speaks about the schar. When a yid does avodah v'skafia v'shapcha, the schar is going to be atzei shitim oimdim. Oimdim means you have a beam standing upright. And of course we learned that in the word oimdim there are two ideas. The first idea of oimdim is like a beam of light which comes from heaven to earth. And the second idea of oimdim is like a column or a beam of matter, of stone or whatever it is, which is raising itself up from the earth into the heavens. And the schar for the skafia ves hapcha, the schar for struggling with this world, to make the Beis HaMikdash for the Eibush, is that you get this Beis HaMikdash. In both of these facets, you get the beam of light which comes from heaven to earth, and you get the beam of material that ascends from earth to heaven, which has to do with Atzmos. Yesh HaNivra is connected to Yesh HaAmiti. And of course, in this Maamar, these two beams were connected to the word Keresh or the word Eimdim. Kroshim is Ruchnius, and Ruchnius includes Karbones and Shtus, and Bimahapech Sheket Keresh. And as I mentioned too, the Rebbe has a Maamar where the Rebbe actually includes in Ruchnius even Kabbalah Seil. The only thing he does not include in Ruchnius is the Kiyum, a mitzvah pel, the actual act of the mitzvah. Any investment or meaning or spirit behind the Kiyum mitzvah, including the spirit of just accepting the yoga of heaven, is involved in Ruchnius. So when you learn Perek test, at least the way the Rebbe teaches it, It's certainly true, by the way, in Lamed Tes, where the Rebbe makes no reference at all, not even beremes, to the Ga'ar Chayas Kona in the middle of our Perek Tes. But even in Perek, in Maamar of Tafshin Yud Tes, where the Rebbe does allude to the fighting with the Kuf, the vast majority of the Maamar is describing that the schar for this kafi of his hapcha is atzei shita meimdim. That we achieve the idea of Amidah, of standing upright and getting from the Eibishter a light which comes from heaven to earth, and getting from the Eibishter a beam which rises from earth to heaven, which is the union of Gilui Ha'atzmos. So the Rebbe is going to add that this schar, this Perek Tes, which says that the avodah of his kafi of his hapcha gives you, so to speak, a reward, which is called oimdim, is the madrega of ani havaya leishanisi. The godliness that is given to us as the schar for making the Beis HaMikdash is defined by us observing, by us experiencing, by us seeing, by it being revealed to us, elikus, in as much that it hasn't changed at all. And hasn't changed at all means before creation it was this way, it's this way now, it'll be this way after creation, with zero change. So the end of this Maamar is saying that the oimdim and the kroshim oimdim that we talked about before, which is the struggle to be a Yid and the kiyum mitzvahs of a Yid, which make a Yid a keli for kroshim and aiming from the beam of light and from the column which travels from earth to heaven, it amounts to, it adds up, the sachakol of it is ani havaya leishanisi, that you have the Eibush in a way which is completely unchanging. Now the Rebbe mentioned that in order to experience in a revealed way the ani havaya leishanisi, forgive me for using these words, it helps to have an opposition. It helps to have an enemy. He brings the pasuk of Madat Lahem Beis Tzarasam from Siddur, that when you have an opponent, it brings the best things out of you. And this opponent helps squeeze out of us the avodah, which is going to usher in the kroshim eimdim. And what's the pshat kroshim eimdim? That we'll see in a revealed way, spiritually and physically, the inyan of ani havaya leishanisi. So that's it. This is what this is going to be about. Okay? Just to quickly review. This Maamar, Perek Yud Tes, and Perek Tafshin Yud Tes, on Perek Tes, and certainly Perek Lamed Tes, which is also on this Perek Tes, place very little attention to the idea that Perek Tes discusses the Milchama with the Yetzer Hara, discusses the Milchama with Ga'ar Chayas Kona. It devotes, in the case of Tafshin Lamed Tes, its entirety. In the case of Tafshin Yud Tes, almost its entirety, to argue the idea of kroshim eimdim, that the schar for Avedas Hashem is a gili alakus and a madrega of leishanisi. Just to repeat one more time, bear in mind that we're dealing with kroshim eimdim. The schar for this kafi of his hapche is a beam of light. A ruchnistic beam of light represented by the word keresh, which is from heaven to earth. A physical beam of light, which really means a beam of light which comes from atzmos amhus, which is connected to the word oimdim. And both of these beams of light are revealed through the avodah of his kafi of his hapcha and the teira and mitzvahs that we perform. And their gilui is a gilui of leishanisi. How you see, kvayachal, the Eibush that is above all kinds of change, eternity. Achtos, complete oneness with the world. So the Rebbe begins Perek Zayin and page Ayin, and he says, V'ha'inyanhu, to explain the idea that through tests, through nisyonis, through hardships, through challenge, one reveals kroshim eimdim, and he reveals kroshim eimdim on a level of ani havaya leishanisi k'meishim havaya k'vei gedushas mona Tzemach Tzedek barucha, and the Tzemach Tzedek explains at length. As we know, in each of the Maamar Basi Legani, every single one of the Rabbeim is mentioned, beginning with the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid and the Alter Rebbe and the Mittel Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe Maharash and the Rebbe Rashab. This is the Tzemach Tzedek, and he brings a Maamar from Pasha Shmeis. The Haftarah Pasha Shmeis is Al Apostle Haboyim Yashresh Yankev Yotzi to Porach Yisrael. Haboyim is Yidna coming to Mitzrayim, and when Yidna coming to Mitzrayim, the Torah says Yashresh, they take root, they're planted, and then of course Yotzi to Porach, then they're going to grow. But the first thing is they have to be planted. So of course there's a number of different insights into the idea of Yashresh Yankev, And one of them is that the performance of a mitzvah is called planting. And like I said, there's a number of different insights into the notion. And one of them is that you have to do a mitzvah in the right place, in the right time, in the right earth. One of the dogmas which is brought in Torah 8 is if a guy does a mitzvah, he accomplishes nothing. If a guy does a mitzvah, he accomplishes nothing. Why? It's not the right earth. It's not the right fertile ground. You have to have a yid to do a mitzvah. And that's the meaning of the pasuk, Yashresh Yankev. You have to plant a seed in the kind of earth which is fertile vis-a-vis tayag mitzvahs. In other words, goyim have 7 mitzvahs b'nei ne'er. And as Rebbe would so often say, they don't have only 7 mitzvahs. They have 7 mitzvahs leisaseh and a whole bunch of mitzvahs aseh, which are the life of the beneach as they manifest from the basic 7 mitzvahs leisaseh. So when a goy is mekayim 7 mitzvahs, did who? So you could say that there's yashresh and yatzut parach. He's planting seeds in his fertile earth, and then something good grows. And we can debate whether this is true or not, but there's that possibility. When it comes to the Yag mitzvahs, a Yid was given these mitzvahs, Lahav Lagoy wasn't. And therefore, if a Goy does these mitzvahs, doesn't have the desired effect, he's not the right kind of fertile earth. Says the Rebbe Kmei, Bezriya Bagashmi is physical planting. Hariyazriya Tzarach Liyaz Ba'arid, Davki, you have to plant in the earth. Va'oz Davka Tia Hapricha V'chul, then will it sprout and grow. And of course, it's not enough to plant it in earth, it has to be planted in fertile earth. Kach gam bezriyas ha-mitzvahs, when he does a mitzvah, he's planting a seed. And the seed has to be planted in the right place. And what is the right place? For a mitzvah to have the effect that it must have. It should sprout and flower and grow, says the Rebbe, which is what's going to happen when Mashiach comes. When Mashiach comes, you're going to see the full flowering, the full revelation of the effect of mitzvahs. As it said in the previous paragraph, in the previous paragraph, we talked about changing the word koneh to the word hine, and hine means revelation, and the revelation as represented by the word hine, and revelation as represented by the word zeh is going to be liyasad lave, but liyasad lave is not in a vacuum. Liyasad lave is based and maseinu v'aveda seinu now. You have to plant the mitzvahs now in an earth which is fertile to receive these seeds and make them grow. And that's Oretz Gashmis, physical earth. In the Ruchnizdika world, there are no mitzvahs. In the Ruchnizdika world, there isn't an earth where you're going to plant the mitzvah, it's going to grow, only down here. And more specifically, Hu Beis in Yon. There's 2 aspects of the idea that the only place which is the right fertile earth where you can plant the mitzvah and it should grow is in Gashmis and in 2 parts. Bein mitzvah the mitzvahs atzma. First of all, as far as the mitzvahs are concerned, Shenislapshu begashmi is kanal. Mitzvahs is dafke physical things. As the Rebbe discussed before, that the key, the most important thing, the loftiest thing, the highest and the deepest thing, is the behavioral performance of mitzvah. And the Rebbe says, it's also true because as far as the person is concerned. Mitzvahs are given to us as we exist, souls in bodies, not the spiritual creations. Why? Because only a neshama beguf on this earth is the right fertile earth for the mitzvah to be planted and grow. Lamaila, there's no such thing. The question, of course, isn't the Maila higher than Lamata? Aren't the spiritual worlds above ours? So why would it be that only in the physical world, with a physical body, can a physical Jew do a physical mitzvah and it's considered Zereh Tzedakah Tzmiach Yeshua, he's planting seeds that are going to later sprout, and you can't do it in Ruchnius? So the Rebbe says, and let's first read Dacha B'Sela. Mitzvahs, 7 lines into the paragraph. Mitzvahs are given to us as we exist in bodies. Leila neshama k'mishi la'mayla, not the neshama in Gan Eden. V'leila malachim, nor was it given to angels, because angels can't plant these seeds either. They don't have the fertile earth either. Only to a soul which exists in a physical body. And this soul, which exists in the physical body, is a kli, is the fertile earth. We can plant the seed and the mitzvah is going to grow. Hine bazeh dafka, in the physical person on the physical earth. Dafka, Huzriyas garin ha-mitzvahs, you're planting the seeds of the mitzvahs. Shaydei zeh nasa apricha d'veitzet grocha. This is the Tzemach Tzedek's argument. And of course it's based on the Teirei and Pasha Shmeis, where the Alter Rebbe says the same idea, that when you plant a seed, the earth has to be a keli for receiving the seed and making it grow. And of course when the seed grows and becomes developed as an entity unto itself, that's a Gili Elukus. And he gives you an example. He gives you an example to help explain why Dafke in Gashmis you can have the idea of Yashresh, and therefore Dafke in Gashmis you can have Yotzet Parach. Or Kameish Mevai Sham, the Tzemach Tzedek explains, B'inam Shoches Hisnasus Atzmi, and the idea of bringing down the sovereignty of the Eibishter, the aloofness of the Eibishter, the transcendence of the Eibishter, as the Eibishter is transcendent on a level of Atzmi. Shehu Atzmusim Husu, which means the Eibishter exists by himself. And it says in Chazal that this is Nasus Atzmi, which is Hashem is removed by himself, is revealed in a way of Ein Melech B'lei Am. When you have a nation, this Nasus Atzmi of the Melech is going to be revealed. And what kind of nation? A people which are darkened and separate. That means Dafka low people reveal the Malchus of the Eibishter. And since it's true that the Eibishter wants to be a Melech, and in order for the Eibishter to be a Melech, you have to have the union of Nifrod, this kingship and this aloofness, which is called Atzmi, is not affected and revealed through the angels. North, where the Neshama says they exist on high. Why? Because neshamis and malachim lamaylu, or malachim and koshke neshamis lamaylu in a state of bittul, and that bittul interferes with the idea of oimamos, the idea of distance, which is the prerequisite to the idea of the gili of Hisnasus Atzmi. Kamesha Kaz written in the pasuk Chayad Hashem Elekei Yisrael Hashem Ad Lefam. There's two different psukim. The Malach, the Navi, swears in the name of the Eibishter in front of whom he stood before he was born. But the Neshamis Lamayla and the Malachim Lamayla, because of this bittul, they preclude it's impossible for them to be the seat of Hisnasus Atzmi, because to be Hisnasus Atzmi, you have to have Dafke Richo can impede it. But rather, I'm sure the only way to bring down the Eibishter's exaltedness, which is an Inyan Atzmi, is the work of the souls are in this world. They manifest in a physical body. So in this world, Hashem is concealed, and because of that concealment, there's free will, and there's the opportunity to exercise good choices. And he continues, in this world, the two paths, which because of the pasuk says that a person has choice, Tev and Ra. A person has the choice to choose the opposite of good. The possibility to choose evil is the indication of the degree of separation and distance between the world and Alakus shall yodam. Only in that environment, who his galas hamalucha v'hisnasus atzmi, can there be a revelation of the Eibishter's kingship on a level of etzem. And the Rebbe says shalamayla makol eretz v'gilim, which is above all lights and all revelations. So the Tzemach Tzedek explains that you can't just do a mitzvah anywhere. You have to do a mitzvah in the right earth, which is a physical person on the physical earth doing a physical mitzvah. And the Tzemach Tzedek compares it to the idea of his nasus. The Eibishter can only be a king on something which is much lower than himself. And the idea that Hashem could be a king over something which is much lower than himself is the requirement for the Eibishter to be a melech. And in that environment where the Eibishter is so much higher than the world which he has a relationship with, we say that he reveals himself, and he finishes the sentence by saying, Hashem is revealed in a way that there's no shanisa, there's no change whatsoever. Everybody knows what's written in the Shara Yichud V'Emunah. The Shara Yichud V'Emunah has a theme, has a topic, has a purpose, which is written in the Kaiseres, in the title, in the beginning of the Shara Yichud V'Emunah. Just like you have in Chelik Rishon, that Meyusal Apostle ki karev elecha dava me'ed beficha uvavcha la'aseisi levad heitev eichu karev me'ed b'derech aruchu k'tzara be'ezer Hashem yizbarech. The second chelik of the Tanya also has a keseres, as a title that denotes, that indicates what this is going to be about. And what does it say there? Lahavin ma'at mez'er ma'shakosel b'zeir. We have to explain what's written a little bit in the Zeir. That Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is called Yichudei Law, and Baruch Hashem K'vei B'chutz Le'Navod is called Yichudei Tatah. This is what it says in the Zeir. Now, on the face of it, on the surface of it, what's the big deal? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Echad is a higher Yichud. Baruch Hashem K'vei B'chutz Le'Navod is a lower Yichud. Who cares? Who does it bother? And of course, there's different answers to this question of what the Zohar is concerned with. Why it says that Shema Yisrael Yichudei Law and Baruch Hashem Yichudei Tatah. The simple question is that if there is a higher Achdus, what place does a lower Achdus play? If there's a higher truth, then a lower truth is simply a falsehood. In the face of a greater emes, what place does a lesser emes have? So if Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Yichudei Law, what's the point of having Yichudei Tatah? That's one of the ways of phrasing the question. But if that were the whole question, then you would say that it depends on the person. That a person on a higher level is holding by Yichudei Law, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. A person on a lower level is not holding by Yichudei Law, so he's holding by Yichudei Tatah, Baruch Shein K'vet Mechus Le'Levad. That this is the reason you have a need for two Achdus. But when you learn Tanya, and you begin to read chapter 7, Perek Zayin, where the Alter Rebbe answers this question, of Lahavin Ma'at Mazer Mashakasa Bezeir. That Shema Yisrael is Yichudei Law and Baruch Shein K'vei B'chutz Le'Navod is Yichudei Tatah. You learn something very interesting. What do you learn? You learn that the reason the Zohar speaks both of a Yichudei Law and Yichudei Tatah isn't only because there are some people who can't relate to the Yichudei Law, and they therefore have no choice but to relate to Yichudei Tatah, but rather that the Eibishter wants a Yichudei Tatah. It is necessary for Hashem to have a Yichudei Tatah. Or in other words, a Yid who's holding on the Madrega of Yichudei Law, so to speak, if he's that one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is in a state of Yichudei Law, he has to go away from Yichudei Law, to go down to the lower level of Yichudei Tatah, because the Eibishter needs Yichudei Tatah. You know, there's a cute little story. It's not a cute story at all, but it's a story that on one level will make this point. There's a sipur that Tzemach Tzedek and Rebbe Maharash. The Tzemach Tzedek at the end of his life was very, very ill. Last few years, Tzemach Tzedek was very, very ill, incredibly ill. And there were a group of Jungalite, a group of Hasidim in Lubavitch, who were complaining about the fact that the Rebbe's illness was resulting in a drought, in a hell and v'hester. There were no Maimorim, there were no Fabrenganish, and there probably wasn't even Yechidus. And they were lamenting the fact that it used to be, there was so much happening in Lubavitch, and now the Rebbe is nid gesund, the Rebbe can't walk, the Rebbe can't gain, and therefore Hasidus has been stifled, if you will. Rebbe Hillel was a big chassid, big makusher. He was also a Gvaldik Baal Madreg. Rebbe Hillel was a tzaddik. And Rebbe Hillel couldn't stomach this. He just couldn't stomach that Chassidim are talking on the Rebbe can't gain, even though it was true. So Rebbe Hillel Paracher walked into the Tzemach Tzedek's room, and he looked at him as the Tzemach Tzedek was sitting and learning. Then he walked out, and he walked over to the Jungalite, and he said to them, the Rebbe can gain, the Rebbe can walk. So the Jungalite looked at the Hillel, and they said to the Hillel Paracher, with all due respect, everybody knows the Rebbe can't walk. What are you talking about? The Rebbe can't gain. So Hillel Paracher said the following words: Lozem optreten, liegt ave betanugim. The Tzemach Tzedek can't walk because he's immersed, he's sunk, he's enveloped in a level of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is called ave betanugim, a love of delight. Lozem optreten ave betanugim, but there can gain. Let him step away from this incredible involvement with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's so delightful, and you'll see that he can walk. This is what Rebbe Hillel said. In other words, the Tzemach Tzedek was ill, and there are many other people that are ill. And when an ordinary person is ill, we all know the reason. The plumbing gets broken down. The goof doesn't work. The Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, Bepashtus, was in the same condition. He couldn't move. Says Rebbe Hillel, the reason the Rebbe can't move is not because of a physical ailment, because he's immersed in Avabatanugim. And the physical ailment is only a symptom. If he wants to go away from Avatanugim, I'm telling you he could walk. This is the word. But there's a story that goes with the word. What's the story that goes with the word? That because the Tzemach Tzedek was paralyzed, so his Misharis, whose name was Reb Chaim Ber, slept right outside the door of the Tzemach Tzedek's cheder on a little cot. And Reb Chaim Ber's job was, whenever the Rebbe would call him, he would get up and give the Rebbe what he needed. And Reb Chaim Ber got no sleep. Why not? Tzemach Tzedek was a masmid alaki. Tzemach Tzedek never stopped learning. And he sat the whole night and he learned. Every 10 minutes he needed another sefer. The door was open. Reb Chaim Ber was sitting in the other room, and the Tzemach Tzedek would say, Reb Chaim Ber, ich darf mal sefer. So Reb Chaim Ber would get up, he'd go into the Tzemach Tzedek's cheder or into the cheder asforim. He would take a ladder, he'd climb the ladder, he'd get the book, come down and bring it to the Rebbe and go back to sleep. 10 minutes later, Reb Chaim Ber darf mal sefer. This went on all night, night after night, for several years. Reb Chaim Ber was falling to pieces. So one night he decided that he's sleeping, a schlaft. And of course, I saw in the Reshima from Reb Shel Bruch, which Reb Chaim Ber told the Tzemach Tzedek days before he passed away, Rebbe, v'tref na v'isavek. Tzemach Tzedek knew the whole Torah by heart. He knew it all by heart anyway. He needed to have a sefer. The Maisman, the Rebbe Maharash, that the Rebbe Maharash used to want to buy Sforim. And the Tzemach Tzedek asked him if he knows the Sforim that he already has. So the Rebbe Maharash said to the Tzemach Tzedek, excuse me, what about you? You have a library of so many closed bookcases and open bookcases, gebundene or nish gebundene, and you just bought a whole bunch of Sforim from the Meicher Sforim. How are you different than I? So the Tzemach Tzedek said, every sefer I have, I know. So the Rebbe Maharash said to his father, can I test you? Tzemach Tzedek said, sure. So the Maharash went over to the shelf, pulled out a sefer, and there's different girses. The Meisef and Tzvei Pletzer. That he pulled out a Mesilas Yesharim, that he pulled out a sefer of Diktuk from the Radak, maybe sefer HaMaslo. There's different girses, and the Tzemach Tzedek recited verbatim, word for word by heart from every sefer. He literally knew everything he had. So the Tzemach Tzedek needed a sefer, he went to Dafka look inside. So Reb Chaim Ber said, I schlaft, finished. The Rebbe calls him and he's ignoring him. And the Tzemach Tzedek Poshet was pleading with him. Tzemach Tzedek is sitting in his chair, and he's paralyzed, he can't move. He says, Reb Chaim Ber, hab rachmon, ich darf a sefer. Reb Chaim Ber schlaft. Eventually, the Tzemach Tzedek gave up hope that Reb Chaim Ber was going to bring him the sefer. It became quiet. The Tzemach Tzedek started to sing a nigun. He started to sing the Dalet Bavis, what we call the Chasanin nigun. The nigun Hagadol of the Alter Rebbe, which is, of course, a very holy nigun with all kinds of Ramazim and all kinds of Seides, like you have in the Siches from the Rebbe Rashab and the Friedrich Rebbe and so on. The Alter Rebbe sang the nigun, the Tzemach Tzedek sang the whole nigun, Dalet Bavis. And then he physically got up, he walked over to the ladder, he moved the ladder to where he needed it, he climbed up on the ladder, he got the sefer he needed, he climbed back down the ladder and sat back down. Reb Chaim Ber observed this. He never slept again. The Rebbe needed a sefer, he got it. Reb Chaim Ber knew the Tzemach Tzedek was paralyzed. He knew he couldn't walk. And he witnessed with his own eyes, as the Hillel Parasha said, that the Rebbe had abgetrotten von Avabatanugim when he was gegangen. In other words, the story of Rebbe Hillel was confirmed by an actual event where it was revealed that the Tzemach Tzedek's ailment is different than everybody else. Everybody else's illness, everybody else's inability to walk is an expression of the physical limitations. And the Rebbe's inability to walk is Valiktan Avatanugim. He stepped away from the higher Madrega to a lower Madrega, but he can't get, he was able to walk. Getting back to the point, this is the avoida this is what you discover in the beginning of Shara Yichud when Perek Zayin. That says someone's holding in the Madrega of Yichudei Allah. That fed up to that needs to step away from Yichudei Allah and come down to the Madrega of Yichudei Tatah, because the Eibush that wants Yichudei Tatah. How do you know the Eibush wants Yichudei Tatah? So in the beginning of Shara Yichud when Perek Zayin, the Alter Rebbe brings the Maamar Chazal, Ano Emlech. But the Eibush wants to be a Melech. And the Alter Rebbe explains that melucha, you cannot be a king over people close to yourself. If a man has 1,000 children, or 10,000 children, or 100,000 children, he can't be their king. Because the relationship between a father and children is too close for the kind of involvement that a king needs with subjects. Because the involvement with kings and subjects is not only different than the relationship between parents and children, it's opposite. Because, for example, parents and children have one relationship, teachers and students have a second relationship, a superior and a subordinate in a business or in a political system have a third relationship, and so forth and so on. But they all share one constant. That's relationships based on proximity. Children are close to parents, students are close to teachers, and subordinates are close to superiors in a business or in politics. The relationship between a king and his subject is based on distance. That the very nature of the connection between a king and the people with whom the king is involved is richuk, is remoteness, is distance, is farawayness, so to speak. So there's nothing close about the connection between the king and subjects. And the expression that's used, it says in Rishonim ein melech b'lo yam. You can't have a king without subject. And the word am is translated from the word gachol meimemes. Gachol meimemes means simmering coals. When a coal is very hot and very fresh, it's called gacholem leichashes, a whispering coal. There's a lot of heat. But when the heat becomes an ember and begins to die, in other words, when it begins to lose its heat because it's no longer able to hold the heat because it's fallen apart, it no longer whispers. It's withering, it's dying. And that's gacholem eimemes. Coals that are becoming darker and weaker. And the connotation of the word am are subject whose relationship with their king is based on the fact that they're weak, that they're distant. Simmering coals. So if a person is a madrega of Atzilus, for example, he cannot experience Hashem as a melech. Because Atzilus is kiruv, Atzilus is av and ben, father and son. But the Eibush says, I want to be a king. So if someone is the madrega of Atzilus and he wants to fulfill, he wants to realize, he wants to experience that Hashem is his king and he is his subject rather than Hashem is his father and he is his son, he has to step away. Zol erabtreten von Yechude Eloah. Und erablassen sich Yechude Tata vetekenen gehen. That's what the story reveals. And that's the Shara Yichud Amun. It's very, very interesting how the Alter Rebbe in Shara Yichud Amun addresses the question of Yechude Tata versus Yechude Eloah. Now, I want to tell you one more story. And both of these stories, by the way, I've told you before. And this second story is the further confirmation of this, the way I explained Shara Yichud Amun and Perek Zayin at the beginning, using the first story. And the second story is that the Alter Rebbe was traveling in Volin. He was away from White Russia. He was in the part of Eastern Europe where you had the other Hasidic groups. And he was told that in the other wagon there were the Einiklach of the Mezitcher Magid and of Avram the Malach. The Alter Rebbe's Rebbe was the Mezitcher Magid. Alter Rebbe's second Rebbe was Avram the Malach. And Avram the Magid, we don't know how old he was when he passed away, but Avram the Malach was very young. As was the son of Avram the Malach, whose name was the Sholem Shachner, the Sholem Drabitcher. And he left two Yesemim, two little orphans, one younger than the other. The older one was called Avram Drabitcher. He was also a big tzaddik. But the younger one was the Helik Eruzhiner, Yisrael Eruzhiner. He was a little boy, he was 6 years old, 7 years old. And the two of them were in a wagon together with their mother, the Almona. And they told the Alter Rebbe, as the Rebbe's Einiklach, the grandchildren of the Mezitcher Magid, and Avram the Malach are going to cross paths with him on the road. So Alter Rebbe obviously stopped. And he brought the children into him to see the Einiklach from his Rebbe. The Ruzhner was a little boy. But the Ruzhner was like, the Ruzhner was gesagt auf sich, ich came nicht gewinnt kein Kind. The Ruzhner said, I was never a child. And the Ruzhner says to the Alter Rebbe, when a Yid says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, how could he possibly say v'yahavta? If a person says that there's nothing but God, how could you love? So the Alter Rebbe answered him, that's why you insert Baruch Shem Kver Mechus Aleilam V'ad. And then when the Ruzhana left, and the Alter Rebbe went off in his own way, the Alter Rebbe turned to the Chassidim who were with him, and he said to the Chassidim, this boy's question you don't understand. You don't begin to understand what the Ruzhana was asking. In other words, it wasn't a simple child question, it was a question of a Kodesh V'Torah, of a Tzaddik, of a Tzaddik Elyon. And of course, if the Alter Rebbe told his Chassidim that they don't understand what the Ruzhana was saying, we certainly don't. But in Das Tach, this is the Pshat. If you say Yichudei Allah, how could you love? If you're going to love, you have to exist. Yesh mi she'oyev. And in a world of Yichudei Allah, there's no yesh. So the Alter Rebbe said, say Baruch Shem. Step away from Yichudei Allah, become a shtikl mitzias, so that you can do the mitzvah of Avas Hashem. In order to have Avas Hashem, you have to be a mitzias. If you're a total non-mitzias, you can't be Mekayim in the mitzvah. So for you and me, the challenge of Avas Hashem is to come close enough to HaKadosh Baruch and have feelings for Him. But for a Tzaddik Elyon, the challenge of Avas Hashem is there's no them that can love the Eibishter. In Kvar Yochel, they step away from the Yichudei Allah, they step away from the Hashem Echad to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Avas Hashem. And this Alter Rebbe explained the Sharich Damunah. When the Zohar says that Baruch Shein v'Bechus L'Nimodi, the Yichudei Tata, it's not only because there are some people who can't relate to a higher Achdus, so they relate to a lesser Achdus. It's the Pshat that the Eibishter wants to be a king. Ano emlich, ein melech b'lei am, an am is meloshe gecholim eimemes. And therefore it's necessary for there to be a lower relationship between the Eibishter and his subjects, so that they can become his subjects, he should be their king. So the Rebbe brings, the Tzemach Tzedek brings, this is the Pshat, that it's nasos atzmi, the idea that Hashem's melucha, Hashem's kingship, is in a level of atzmiyus, how Hashem's kingship is as Hashem is by himself, reveals itself only in the lowest of worlds. Why? Because in the lowest of worlds you have the concept of eimemes v'nifradim. And only in a world of eimemes v'nifradim can you reveal the ideas it's nasos atzmos. In the higher worlds we're not separate from him. And because in the higher worlds we're not separate from him, he can't be our king. And ultimately kingship is an inyan atzmi, it's one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you learn in Chassidus, Malchus has a higher shadish than anything. But the shadish of Malchus needs to be revealed on Amlosh and Eimemes. So the Tzemach Tzedek says, this is the Pshat. Haboy mirashish yainkiv yotzat Perek Yisrael. The Eibishter has seeds. And the seeds are mitzvahs. They have to be planted. They have to be planted on the physical earth. They have to be planted in the Yidus and the Neshama Beguf. Why? Because that's the fertile earth which is the basis or the environment where it will grow. And of course, growing means a Mashiach come that's going to be revealed. Because only on a level so low is it the right environment to plant these seeds that L'Ostad Lavi they're going to grow and reveal themselves as they should. What's the Havana Shebedavar? Because only in the lowest world do you have enough distance to account for the Eibishter being a king and us being his subjects to the extent that you're revealing is nasos atzmi. So the Rebbe says, V'hu, 7 lines from the bottom of page Ayin. B'chinas ani havaya leishanisi. This is the level of ani havaya leishanisi. The idea that Hashem's kingship is revealed on us as we are so far away from him. And the kingship of Hashem is revealed on a level of Nasos Atzmis. This is revealing the Eibishter on a level of Leishanisi. And what's attached to Leishanisi? Leishanisi means that the world and the Eibishter are so one, you don't even say that the world is one with the Eibishter. You don't even say that the world does not change in relationship with the Eibishter. You simply say the Eibishter hasn't changed. Now you don't see it. Now all you have is Aboim Yasha Shankiv, you're planting seeds. And L'Osad Lavi, Yatzat Perek Yisrael, you're going to see the Leishanisi. And only here. This Leishanisi is never going to be revealed in Atzilus, because in Atzilus Hashem can't be a king and we can't be his subjects. If he can't be a king and we can't be his subjects, he can't reveal his kingship, which is called Leishanisi. V'hagam, says the Rebbe, is it not true, Asher ani havaya Leishanisi hu b'tmidas? That Ani Hashem Leishanisi is not something you have to make. Ani Hashem Leishanisi is something which is. You don't have to make Hashem one. Hashem is one. You don't have to show that besides for Hashem there's nothing. And even, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya in other places, B'mokem hazeh shani alav, that where I am right now is Leishanisi, it's a part of Hashem. And just like before Hashem made me, there was nothing but him. Now that I perceive myself as being there's really nothing but him. And that's a constant. So the Rebbe says, Shezehu, Sharezehu, Amitis. And this is the truth. The pshat is that it should be revealed, and revealed vividly to us, that we should experience Achdus Hashem. Right? Like you have in Likutei Amarim, Perek Lamed Vav. When the Alter Rebbe talks about Lasses Leis Barach, Dire B'Tachteinim, the Alter Rebbe asked a simple question that Klapi Mile is no Eliyim V'Tachten. The Rabbi Deibisher, there's no high and there's no low. How could you make the idea of Dire B'Tachteinim? And the Alter Rebbe says that Dire B'Tachteinim means in our perception, in our point of view. Similarly, Ani Havaya allusion may be a fact. It may be true that the Eibishter is everything, and the Eibishter is everywhere, and he's everything and everywhere in a kind of way where you say nothing changed at all. From Kedesh and Nivra Ha'elam, but it's not Bagilui, and it's not B'Mochesh. And La'asad Lavi it's going to be, and that's the Yotzei to Porach Yisrael. Hine, K'beshikasav, Hine v'Geimer Zeh, that when Mashiach comes, Alma B'Yemahu, Hine L'keinu Zeh, like the whole arichas that you have in Chassidus, that you're going to see with your eyes Elokus, and you're going to see with your eyes Elokus on a level of Leishanisi. Kol echad ve'echad mare be'etzboi. We're able to point with our finger. Hini agilui b'muchash, seeing this vividly. Yihi yeli asid is going to be revealed when Mashiach comes. Dafke v'hu ayedei ha'aveda achshav lamata. It's through the service we do down here now. Begashmi is dafke in the physical world. So the Tzemach Tzedek uses the pasuk aboim yashish yanki, what's the Perek Yisrael, to explain Ana Emlech, that the kingship, which is an Inyan Atzmi, can only be revealed in the lowest worlds. And our Rebbe takes this discussion and uses it to explain how only in the physical world, down here in the physical world, can you have the Inyan of Kroshim Eimdim. The Gila of Niyavaya Loishanisi has to be down here in the physical world, because only down here in the physical world is it the fertile earth, is the right environment for the Gila of Niyavaya Loishanisi. And then the Rebbe continues. Let's explain further this point. And of course, what is the point? The point is that only here in the Gashmi Zdeka world will you be able to reveal Kroshim Eimdim, both the Ruchni Zdeka Amud Mulmaila Lamata and the Gashmi Zdeka Amud Mulmata Lamaila, to the extent that you're seeing the Eibishter on a level in Evaya Leishanisi. So the Rebbe says, Kamesha Kosov Kvei Kedushas Admor Maharash. Now he brings a Teire from the Rebbe Maharash. And this Teire from the Rebbe Maharash is also, in a different way, going to present the same kind of an argument. That only in the lowest level is there revelation of Atzmos Amhus. And of course, in the language of our Maimed, only in the lowest level is there going to be a revelation of Atzmos Amhus on the level of Leishanisi. That the absolute truth will be totally revealed. So the Tzemach Tzedek used the Pasuk Aboim Yash Teshanki Yetz the Perek Yisrael to make his point. And the Rebbe Maharash is going to use the Pasuk V'avas Elam Ahaftich Al Kein Mishachtich Chosed. The beginning of the Pasuk is Merocha Havaya Nidali. We see the Eibishter from far away. And then it says V'avas Elam Ahaftich. Hashem loves us, a love which is called Elam. Al Kein Mishachtich Chosed. Therefore the Eibishter gives us a kindness. So the simple taich Avas Elam is Hashem loves us on a worldly level. Now, if you learn Tanya, you know, Perek Mem Gimel, chapter 43, there's something called Avas Elam, and there's something called Avarabba. What's the difference between Avas Elam and Avarabba? The difference between Avas Elam and Avarabba is Avas Elam is a love that comes from the mind. You meditate, you learn, you understand Hashem, and therefore you experience love for Him. But if you're meditating and you're learning and understanding Hashem, you're never meditating and learning and understanding Hashem Himself, that you can't see. You're meditating and learning and understanding Hashem's world, Hashem's actions, Hashem's creation. And Hashem's creation is evidence of what He is. So Avas Elam means I love Hashem through analyzing the world. So when you say I love Hashem through analyzing the world, there's two parts. Number one, I love Hashem through analyzing the world. And number two, my love is based on an analysis, on His abundance, which is seichel. So that love is limited. Any love which comes from the mind is limited by the mind's capacity to understand. But then there's Avarabba, an infinite love. And Avarabba doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the neshama. And the way you would do His abundance to bring to Avarabba, you wouldn't analyze what the world is. You would analyze what the world is not. After you understand what the world is, you would then analyze how Hashem is more than that, which of course you can only understand b'derech yediyas hashlila, indirectly, and you develop an infinite love, because that infinite love is not based on the meditation. That infinite love is revealed from the neshama. So all over Chassidus, Avas Olam is the lower level, Avas Zuta, and Avarab is the higher level. The problem is that Rebbe Maharash brings that Avas Olam is higher than Avarab. And that's the basis for this conversation. How could you say that Avas Olam is higher than Avarab? Everybody knows that Avarab is higher than Avas Olam. And he's going to explain that there's an Avas Olam which is higher than Avarab, but the Avas Olam which is higher than Avarab continues to be connected to Olam. It's not it's a higher level and has nothing to do with Olam. It's a higher level than Avarab, and yet it's an Olam that you love, as you'll see in Mitzvah Hashem as we proceed. So let's read. The Isa B'Tanat V'Aliyah says in Medrash, Asher Avas HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Hashem loves us. Shema Tema, you may think, She Avas Shal Shalosh Shanim, it's a love of 3 years. Or Shal Eseh Shanim, or a love for 10 years. Or Shal Me'ah Shanim, a love for 100 years. In other words, Hashem loves us, but eventually He's going to lose interest. And frankly, if the Eibush was meant to lose interest, He would have lost interest a long time ago. And clearly He hasn't lost interest. So Haraya, you and I are sitting here and having this conversation. So the Medrash says, do not view Hashem's love with the Jewish people as contained by time. That's not case. Ki im avas elam haftach. Top of page Ayin Aleph. The love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for us is infinite. Elam. Forever. No limit. Bligvul. But the word that denotes forever is Elam. And the problem is, Elam means world. And world means limitation. And forever is the opposite of that. The Rebbe Maharash explains in the Hemshech Mayim Rabbim that Elam is Lashon Nitzchi, the word Elam denotes something which is eternal. V'zeu avas Elam, a love which has to do with Olam, doesn't mean a worldly love and a love based on reason, but rather Avanitzchas, an eternal love, an immortal love, an endless love. So of course the question becomes immediately, we know that Avas Elam is lower than Avarabba. Here there's a suggestion to the contrary. So the Rebbe doesn't ask the question, he just immediately gives the answer. We know from all over Chassidus, including Tanya Perek Mem Gimel, that Inyan Avas Elam, a love which is worldly, and as I told you, there's 2 parts to a worldly love. Number 1, it's a love connected to the world, and number 2, it's a love connected to the brain, to the mind of the person. Well, Avas Rabba is a love which is higher than the world and connected to the neshama. Shulamat, Avas Elam is traditionally lower than Avarab. And in this case, the Maamar seems to be indicating Asher Avas Elam Hi Ahava, that the love, which is called Olam, which on the one hand means world, and on the other hand means eternal, is Hi Ahava Hachi Nailis She'elamayla, and it's the highest kind of love. There's no love higher than it. So the question is, which is it? Is Avas Elam lower than Avarabba, or is Avas Elam higher than Avarabba? And the Rebbe Maharash gives an answer. Now remember, I already told you the Nakuda. Obviously, it's going to be more complicated than it appears. But the end is going to still be that Olam means Welt, world. But there's a matrega of love which has to do with the world, which is higher than Avarab, which is called Olam. So the Rebbe Maharash explains, Shesh Beis Pirushim Ba'elam, the word Olam has 2 translations. It means Nitzchias, it means an eternity. It means the foreverness. And it also means Olam, world. Which means, of course, concealment, hiddenness, limitation, containment, time and space, and so forth. How can one word, Olam, denote such opposite things? And the answer is because there's 2 kinds of worlds. The lower worlds are worlds, and the higher world is an eternity. Now, I just want to say this up front because it's a little bit unclear in the language. The Rebbe is going to say that there's lower worlds and higher worlds. The lower worlds conform to the translation of the word Olam, meaning concealment, Helam, and the higher worlds conform to the higher translation of Olam, which means eternity. But as the Maamar develops, you're going to see that the higher world, which is associated with Olam, which means eternity, is higher even than Seviv Kalalman. Not it's higher than Mamala Kalalman, it's higher than Seviv Kalalman, which means it's a concept of a world which is really totally above the whole phenomena of worldliness. And let's read inside. V'yesh Trein Almin, there's 2 kinds of worlds, because it says in the Pasuk, Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael min ha'elam v'ad ha'elam, that Hashem Baruch Havaya, we bring down Shem Havaya. We bless Shem Havaya, who's the God of Israel, min ha'elam v'at ha'elam, from one world to another. This pasuk is cited often to discuss, amongst other things, the malachim and their tefillas, that they bring godliness from a higher world to a lower world. Now, in the words min ha'elam v'at ha'elam, there are only two worlds, but Chassidus explained that there's really innumerable worlds. And min ha'elam v'at ha'elam is a symbol for the most extreme disparity between the highest and lowest worlds, but it includes much. We know that there's an infinite number of worlds. There's an infinite number of worlds. Basically, generally, they're going to basic categories. Alma Desgalia, revealed worlds, or worlds that are revealed as a world. But Alma Descasia, and concealed worlds, which means worlds which are not non-worlds. And again, I'm repeating, in this context, Alma Descasia is not Elam Abriya. Alma Descasia is not even Elam Atzilas, and you'll see later, Alma Descasia is not even Kesed. Alma Descasia here is higher than Seviv Kalam. But basically, it's two Elames. Elames that are in the category of Elam, either Mamali or Seviv. Bria, Atzilos, and Ein Seviv. And Alma Desgalia is above all of this. The Alma Desgalia, the world which you see as a world, which is revealed to you as a Helam Vehested, Hu B'mida, Gvul, B'tzimtzum B'yes. It's measured, it's limited, and it's contained. And when the love comes from the contemplation, in the light, which is measured and limited in the world, says the Rebbe, on a basic level it means only Mamalik Alalmin, and one is contemplating, not Hashem, but one is contemplating the investment of Hashem in the world on a level that the world is a kli for it, which is called Mamalik Alalmin. So you're not thinking about Hashem, you're thinking about life, world. It says the Rebbe Mizebal Yava. When you do a meditation, you do a contemplation, and the Chayes Eliki, which is limited in its relationship with the world, and this brings you to love, Hine. Since you're developing a love, it's based on a meditation. That's number one, Seich. And it's a meditation about godliness, which is limited to worldliness. Lezeis hi ahava mitzumtzemes. It's accordingly a limited love. And the Rebbe says, of course, it's lamata mi'avarabba. It's lower than avarabba. Avarabba means an infinite love. And again, avarabba is infinite for two reasons. Number one, it's not based on his bonus in world. It's based on his bonus in the Eibishter, which is an indirect his bonus, shlila. And number two, it's not a love that comes from the mind. It's love that comes from the neshama. But Avas Elam, when one contemplates the Chayes Eliki in the world using his mind, and he's using his mind to analyze godliness in the level of worldliness, that's a limited love. Masha'inkin Alma Deskasi. And again, soon you're going to see that this includes Seviv Kalamanos, as opposed to the world which is called concealed, It's beyond any measure and any limit, and you'll see soon that this goes as a sphere of Sagnuzes, which is even higher than Keser. The Gemara says, being davar asamim in ayin, of a pasuk, right? Yishlach ad Hashem lecha es abracha ba'asamecha. Hashem should send you His blessing ba'asamecha. So the Gemara says, what is the meaning of ba'asamecha? In what's hidden. And the Chazal say, Rashi brings it in Chumash also, Eina bracha sheira al b'davar asamim in ayin. When something has already been counted, something has already been accounted for, there's no room for the bracha because it's already fixed. But it has not yet been identified, not yet been counted. There's plenty of possibility for the Amish to bring a bracha there because they don't know what you have, and the Amish can make it whatever he wants it to be. Shesheda by a bracha, that brachas can rest there. Hayno she'ein ba'agbol, so it has no limits. Says the Rebbe, v'hu yinav seilem l'shen nitchias. An environment which is called Alma Deskasi, a world of concealment, which, as you'll see momentarily, is not only higher than Bria, it's not only higher than Atzilus, it's even higher than Keser, higher than Mamala Kalam, higher than Seviv Kalam. In a world which is not yet a world, the bracha of the Eibishter vis-a-vis such a world is an Avaselam, which is an eternal love. It's the other translation which is eternal. That's higher than every level. It's above a love which has to do with worldliness in the madrega of Mamale Kalaman. which goes on Bria and Atzilus. Kim Game B'chinas Sevev. There's a level of Elokus called Sevev Kol Alman, which means hidden from Alman. And if Chassidus, of course, points out that Sevev Kol Alman has a last name. Sevev Kol Alman, indirect, hidden from world, which means it has an indirect relationship with the world. And Avas Elam is even higher than that. And he explains it. That when it says in the Medrash that there is an Ava of Shalish Shanim, an Ava of Eseh Shanim, an Ava of Meya Shanim, this goes on Hishtalshus. This is how it spells itself out. The Zel when Ava Shal Shalish Shanim, Eseh Shanim, Meya Shanim. 3 years. This is the Ton of Eliyahu, which we had in the bottom of the previous page. That Hashem's love for us is not 3 years, 10 years, or 100 years. And he explains it at Pikabala. There's limited life from God. In the lowest worlds of Briyatzir and Asiya, who in Sholei Shanim is the notion of 3 years, because there's 3 worlds. Every one of these worlds has 3 levels of Elam, Shan, and Nefesh. So each of these 3 worlds is the Madrega of B'Shem Sholei Shanim. Oshan, Elam, Shan, and Nefesh in each world. Zman, Mokum, and Ruchnias. So Elam is B'Yah is represented by the number 3. A love of 10 years in Kabbalistic language goes on the 10 Sfiris of Atzilus. The Ba'atzilus, who in Eseh Sfiris, and Atzilus is the idea of the 10 Sfiris, which is Bechinas Eseh Shanim, the notion of 10 years, and of course, V'ulamayla Mibya, it's higher than Briyatzir Nasiyah. Because in Briyatzir Nasiyah, godliness is concealed. Or to say it slightly differently, in Briyatzir Nasiyah, if there's a godliness, it's called Er Neshama. It's a limited godliness. Mashenkin in Atzilus Yavein Sof. Says the Rebbe, Sharei Ba'atzilus U'Eseh Sfiris Blima. In Atzilus you have the 10 Sfiris, and the 10 Sfiris are called Blima. That means the 10 Sfiris are Ein Seif. And therefore in Atzilus you don't speak only of 3, you speak of 10. The Imayesam Eseh Sfiris, in as much as there are 10 Sfiris, and it says in the Sefer Yetzirah, Eseh V'lei Teisha, Eseh V'lei Achadasar, 10 and not 9, 10 and not 11. So arguably Atzilus also is limited. And if Atzilus is also limited, shouldn't you say that Atzilus is also confined to the reality of Elam, Shan, and Nefesh, Ashan, and it should be connected to the number 3? Like the Rebbe name, the Eseh Sfiris of Atzilus are Blima. In other words, even though they're 10, they're really 1. Because they have no substance, they have no form. And therefore, V'ulamayla Mibya, it's above the worlds of Briyatzir and Asiya. Because the fact is, to go to Bria from Atzilus, who are parsa, requires a screen. Atzilus means proximate, close to godliness. V'nikra Elam ha'achdos is the world of unity, oneness with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like it says in the first Perek of Basi, Legani, Tafshin Yud. So b'meile, Atzilus is connected to the number 10. Because the number 10 is not denoting more detail, the number 10 is denoting more Ein Sefius. So B'Yah is connected to the number 3, and Atzilus is connected to the number 10, and 10 is higher than 3. Says the Rebbe, Ach mikol mokom arigam Atzilus hu b'hagbala. Even Atzilus has its limits, notwithstanding that it's Ein Seif, but it's Ein Seif which is Begilui, Ein Seif which is Begili and Kalim, Ein Seif which is Begili and 10 Kalim. Says the Rebbe, ve'ein zeh tachos ava. So the love in Atzilus is still called avas oilam, which means a love associated with worldliness, and is therefore finite. Or as I said before, it's connected to the human mind and to the godliness of the world. And then the Rebbe says, avas shal meya shanim, and above Atzilus, there's a love which is called 100-year love. And 100 love goes on Kesed. That the number 100 goes on Kesed. Which is above Atzilus. And of course this means the Ein Seif of Kesed is so high that it can't even come down into Kalim. The 100 is really 1. Meya Shana as opposed to Meya Shanim, like we know from Chayesara, right? Or Klolus. And the Lashon, by the way, the last line of the previous page, in the Medrash is also Sholei Shanim, Eseh Shanim, and Meya Shana. Like it says in Teirei and Pashas Chayesara. Yes? Says the Rebbe, Hu ha'esh meshu b'keser. This is the light of Keser, Shalamayla Matzilus, which is higher than Atzilus. Or Klolos Eilam Ein Seif, Shalamayla Matzilus, and the worlds which are called Ein Seif, In general, Nechlalim Kulam B'Bchinas HaKesed, represented by the word Kesed, which is the inyan of Mei Shana. And he brings the Zayar, Al Pasuk V'yu Chai Yisada Mei Shana, that Mei Shana goes on Kesed, which is Asar Klal Dekela Asar Ilah. It's a general place that includes everything which is supernal. And this is the Yud Sfidus, when you call Echad Miyud, each one is 10 times 10, which is a idea of Mei Shana. But Mei Shana doesn't mean more detail, just like Esed doesn't mean more detail. Mei Shana means a more unified and a higher light. So you have Bri Yitzir Nasiya, you have Atzilus, and you have Kesed. All of this is Alma Desgalye. It's a world which we know, and the Ahava, which exists there, which is called an Avas Elam, that comes from Mizbanus Nilkus of Welt, it means a limited love. Says the Rebbe Maharash, nevertheless, some 8 lines from the bottom of page Ayin Aleph. Harigama Kesed, even the Madreg of Kesed B'chal Ha'elamis is amongst Elamis. V'mayes B'china Seviv, notwithstanding, there is the Madreg of Seviv. Mikom Mokam Madregama Seviv, Shaychas Elamis. Even Seviv is called Seviv Kol Alman. Like I said before, B'china Seviv Al Kaponim, it's hidden, it's indirectly involved with the worlds. The L'cheinikra Seviv Le Alman. And all of this, Atzilus, Kesed, Memala Kalam, and Seviv Kalam is in the first type of Avas Elam, which means a love which has to do with world, which is a finite love. Omnaminyan Avas Elam, as opposed to the other translation of Avas Elam, which the Rebbe Maharash brings, which is Melosha Nitzchi, so it's an eternity, Humitzata Atzmas. From the point of view of a Lakus, which has nothing to do with the world directly or indirectly, is also an Ava, which is called Olam, but Olam doesn't mean world, Olam means an eternity. Shubali Givol has no limit. Shalamayla Game Bechinas Mei Shana, it's above they have 100 years. Zagehele Kerebu Beklola said in general, who Inyan is Sfiris Shava Maitzel. It's the 10 Sfiris, the Madega, which is called Maitzel, which is basically ain't safe. Es Sfiris Sagenuzis. Now, of course, when the Rebbe said Es Sfiris Sagenuzis, you can start the pilpul. What Madrega of Sfiris Sagenuzis, there's a Maamar in Samaches Shvuas, where he speaks a whole bunch of Madrega of Sfiris Sagenuzis. There's a Maamar Shvuas Tafshir Chav Hey or Chavav, which the Rebbe has, which we taught here in this shiurim over an extended period last year, B'shah Sha'Allah Meishal Amorim, where the Rebbe goes into deeper and deeper madregas as a spheres agnus, nildin as a spheres which is shame, which is hide and shameless, as a spheres in aid. The Rebbe says this is Elam Lashon Yitzchak. This is godliness that has nothing to do with worldliness. Says the Rebbe Milashon Yitzchak, so mitzad ha'atzmos, shu b'chidus bli gevosh, okay. Ubeklos, who in Esfir Shabamaitzel, Esfir Sagnusis, says the Rebbe 5 lines in the bottom, Shemitzad Bechinazui, Bechinas Ahava Nitzches, eternal love. Eternal love. So, there's Avas Elam, which means if you're relating to Hashem through the world, the love is finite. There's Ava Rabba, which means when you're relating to Hashem higher than the world, the love is infinite. And then above Ava Rabba, there's another Avas Elam, which is love which has absolutely nothing to do with the world at all. Elakus in Atzmus. We have an eternal love, Avas Elam, which is higher than Ava Rabba. But the question now becomes why it's called Avas Elam. Why not call it Ava Rabba or Ava Rabba Rabba? Why is it called Avas Elam? So the Rebbe continues. And we are 5 lines in the bottom of page Ayin Aleph. Omnam. Inyan Borach Havaya Lekei Yisol Elam Ad Elam. We said before that there's an idea of bringing down Havaya from the higher world to the lower world. And the higher world here means higher than Seviv Kalalman. To the lower world means Asiyah. Hakavonahi, this means you bring that from the highest idea of world. And we know that the highest idea of world is not a world at all. It has a Sfiras Agnuzis. Ad Elam Hayezet Tach, the very lowest world. Sheyurgish, that in the lowest world it should be felt, Echshu Kul Echad, it's all one. Ukulashena Maamar, as the expression in our Maamar, which is based on the Tanya Gag V'ritz Be'echad Mamish, the ceiling and the floor are one Mamish. So the Rebbe says, since we have an idea of Avas Elam, which means an Ava Nitzchis, and there's an Indian of Baruch to bring down from the highest level to the lowest levels, so there's a link between Avas Elam, which means world, and Avas Elam, which means eternity. That's why these 2 words, these 2 interpretations apply to the same words. Avas Elam means a worldly love, and Avas Elam means a world of love which has nothing to do with world. How? On the one hand, it's Elam Kipshuta, world literally, which is Elam Hazah Gashmi, the physical world. Shein Mikre Yetzei Midei Pshuta, it's the pasuk has to be understood literally that it means this world. Uba Elam Kipshuta, and in this literal physical world, There's Amshachas Bechinas Elam Loshen Nitchias. You reveal godliness, which is not just from a higher world, but godliness from a level which is in eternity. Page Ayin Beis at the top. The who, and this bridging of the highest world, Elam Loshen Nitchias, with Elam Hazeh Hagashmi, its commission is Baya Le'il Bechinas Nevai Le'Shanisi. Revealing the idea that Alakus is Le'Shanisi. Before the Eibishter created the world, it was only Eibishter. Hashem created the world, there continues to be only Eibishter. Heder Hashinui, or Shalamayla Mishinui, there's no change at all, it's above change. Alakus as it is by itself, and it's revealed in Elam. Shehu Ha'atzmuth, Shalamayla Mekol Ha'eres. Revealing Le'Shanisi means godliness above all Eres. Shalei B'chol B'chinas Eresh B'chinas Shinui. And now the Rebbe says, Hine, Hamshachas B'chinas Ani Avaya Le'Shanisi, to reveal the notion of Avaya Le'Shanisi, Olam Loshen Nitzchias, how Alakus doesn't change at all, even though there is a creation, is revealed in El Mazeh Tachten, and it's going to be revealed Liyasad Lavid after Mashiach come. So the Shaila becomes, how is this a hezbid? Because the whole point is to explain that not only is Avas Elam Loshen Nitzchias coming down also into the lowest world, but you want to explain how Avas Elam Loshen Nitzchias is coming down dafke into the lowest world. That's the whole premise, right? The whole premise of this Maamar is that the highest Medeg of Alakus can only reveal itself on the lowest levels, as the idea of Malchus and Remus, which Tzemach Tzedek brought, and like the ideas that we had in the first half of the earlier Shiyurim on this Maamar, from Yesh HaNivra and Yesh HaAmiti, and the whole thing about Oir Mayim Rakia, that only in the lowest level can reveal the highest inyan. Somehow what the Rebbe Maharash is saying is also the same thing. Baruch Havayim and Elam ad Elam is not even from the highest world to the lowest world, but dafke from the highest world to the lowest world, and I'm not sure how, but Bepashtis is because the Alter Rebbe says the Lashon Elam Kipshutei. Only this world is an actual literal Elam. But you have to say this is the Pshat, otherwise you don't understand why he brings the Rebbe Maharash. You have to say the Pshat is that it's not also Nimshach in Elam Hazeh, but Elam, Loshen Nitchias, Nimshach, Dafken Elam Hazeh. I'm going to leave it for now. We're going to do a Mitzvah Hashem one more Shir, and we'll learn Perek Ches and Perek Tes. And if I have more clarity about how to understand what we just learned from the Rebbe Maharash, I'll mention it from the beginning of the next Shir.